I would never shoot somebody just because they're famous. Like maybe I did at the beginning because that was really exciting for me. But now, I mean, my favorite thing is when I see somebody new who I've never seen before. That's the best. Like, and I don't know who they are. I don't know where they work. I just like how they look. I like how they move, whatever. But again, like I want to make sure that I feel like I'm just documenting these people. I don't want to play an active role in it. I just want to feel like I'm there witnessing, and I would prefer to just be ignored. It's like if you were a National Geographic photographer and the lions were posing for the camera, you want the natural habitat. I think it will be a de-evolution. Like, I think it already has become a de-evolution. I think that there's too many photographers. Every single person going to the show can have 20, 30 photos of themselves. It's not really that special anymore, because if that doesn't exist, then the whole industry doesn't exist, because if street style isn't able to make money, and if brands aren't able to sell their clothes from these photos, then it can't exist. But I just don't think that I personally need to participate in, selling clothes through the photos. As soon as that doesn't work anymore, as soon as the brands don't want to, dress people on the street anymore, then I think it will go away a little bit. But I'll still enjoy it, because I think that it's interesting to. It'll be interesting to see what happens when there's not the same amount of money to be made there. If the other photographers will disappear, if less people will go to the shows because they're not being dressed by brands. I don't know what will happen. I shoot just because I like to shoot. I don't do it thinking about the business aspect of it. That's not why I personally go. I mean, the money that you make from the magazine, it covers my travel, it covers my hotels, it covers my food, and it leaves me with a little bit of money afterwards, enough to survive. I calculated it, and I realized that I would make more money working in a coffee shop, making coffee for people per hour. I'd make like double, because we work so many hours. So when you break it down, it's not just about the money that you make from, bought from the magazine, from the instantaneous income. It's about the value of being there. I think, like I said, I think me and Yvonne are the only ones traveling this crazy. Yeah. Scott doesn't go to these cities. Tommy doesn't go to these cities. They all do like 5. They do New York, London, Florence, Milan, Paris, and Sydney. Most of them. Scott doesn't do Sydney, but the rest of them do Sydney. Yeah, not really even Tokyo. And I figure, okay, I'm doing all of those. I'm doing all the men's as well. I'm doing couture. I'm doing Copenhagen, Stockholm, Oslo, Kiev, Moscow, St. Petersburg. I want to do Seoul. I've done Tokyo, now Shanghai, Beijing. If they invite me, I'm going to go to Sao Paulo. I'm going to Jamaica, and there's Mumbai and Istanbul, which I've never been to. There's Amsterdam, Berlin. There's so many. You could literally work every day. I worked every day from January 6th until March 23rd. Then I had 5 days off. Then I started it again. And although it's a little bit crazy, it's like I feel like my job is to be kind of like a newspaper and deliver news on what's happening in all these places. I feel like if I miss a season, it's not really fair to people who want to see my coverage or whatever. Plus, also, I just like to have the photos for myself. I think it's exciting. But I feel like going to all those places, being everywhere, you have the potential to, not necessarily work with brands in all those places, but it adds to your name value in some kind of way. Potential collaborators can be impressed by that. That's not why I do it, but I realize the value of that for sure. You work with brands because they like your Instagram, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know. It's always a mystery to me. I really like shooting in Copenhagen. I like all of the Scandinavian fashion weeks, but Oslo and Copenhagen are amazing. I really like that style. I think that reads to me a little bit more. I really like Sydney. I think Sydney Fashion Week, or Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Australia, or whatever it's called. Moscow, Kiev is amazing. Maybe you don't get the most photos, but there's some really cool people there. Wearing designer brands and stuff like that. These kids are just wearing what those designer brands are copying, what Saint Laurent is copying, the vintage store stuff, but they do it really, really well. I think it's very impressive. I always go there and I'm always thinking okay, maybe I'm not going to have that much to shoot, and I don't take that many photos, but I always come out with something that's wow, this is super cool. That's the problem, because we've been, we have a schedule. Today I'm going to go and shoot there. I have some cool photos yesterday. The venue's really difficult to shoot at. That's the problem. So many photographers. I don't understand what they're shooting. And then you have all the people selling the tickets on the street as well, which I've never seen before. And then you have the security, and the security is super pushy. Yeah, the light hasn't been so good either. I have some photos, nothing amazing. It's not the people's fault, it's the light and the situation. So hopefully today I can go and get some more photos. The style is much more younger. It's also kind of similar what I saw in Seoul as well. it's different than Japan. It's not taken too seriously, which I think is cool. You know, you get tired of like everybody wearing Celine all the time, you know? I mean, I love Celine, but you know, let's see something different. But again, I think I need to shoot more. Like, I need to like just see more to have a better idea of it. I mean, the shows that I saw, everything seemed really like colorful and like lots of different fabrics, lots of mixing of prints, mixing of fabrics. It was cool. But the music on the runway has been really cool as well. I've been like Shazamming everything. I'm the wrong person to ask about trends because I specifically and intentionally remain ignorant to them. Because if I start to look at trends, then I will focus. Like I said, if I either do something or I don't do something. So if somebody tells me that whatever, like the vêtement jean, like the, you know, like that this is a trend, which it is, I'm only going to look for that, and I'm not going to keep my eyes open to everything else. That's just how my brain works. I intentionally ignore this because otherwise you're going to just see my whole website's just filled with photos of vêtements, like, you know, jeans. Yes. I don't really care, to be honest, because I don't want to focus on that in general, because I don't think it's important for me to help to dictate what these trends are. I think that it should happen organically. I think that if that's the problem that I have, is all these like trend forecasting things. It's not even trend forecasting, it's trend dictating. And if you put out a magazine that says these are the trends for next year, then those are going to be the trends for next year. It's not about Karl Lagerfeld tells you that you should be wearing. You should look at what Karl Lagerfeld's doing and then interpret it in your own way. Like, you don't need to buy Chanel. I think Paris is always the best in general. Men's, women's, couture is a little bit boring, but I think Paris men's is incredible. Like, it seems to be really like diverse. You have like people dressing really luxe, you have people dressing really street, you have people dressing weird. I really like that a lot. I also like London women's and men's too. It's very unique. Like lots of strange stuff that you would never see anywhere. Lots of things that are technically ugly, but that are somehow look amazing. I really like Copenhagen. I think Copenhagen has the most my style. I don't really know how to describe any of them like individually, but I mean, Copenhagen is very like utilitarian, but still very tasteful. Paris men's is kind of just a little bit of everything. London is, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to just say like freaks. Somehow it works really, really well. Like, I'm always like super inspired when I go to London. I think you just don't see those people anywhere else on the tour either. Like, it's a much smaller community, I think. Like, British designers are kind of dictating everything right now. It's crazy. So it's cool to see that happening. I mean, that's changed quite a bit since I started, you know. I don't know. People have always been looking like to, like, you know, London's famous for like the punk style, obviously. I used to work at opening ceremony, and I'd have some people that would like dress like that worked there. But I don't know, it just wasn't like a norm. Like, in London it seems to be okay to like, and I would never have the balls to do that. Like, I would be way too scared because I don't think I could pull this look off. But I'm always like inspired that these people can like put these things on that look very strange and walk out the door, and like, I'm just so impressed. I don't know, it's very cool. I mean, I don't like this. I don't think it's honest. Like, I think that whenever you do anything just to get attention, I think it's a little bit sad. I think most of us who've been there for a long time can tell when people are kind of just pandering for our attention, and I think that most of us just ignore it for the most part. I mean, granted, some people can do it in a way that looks amazing, but it's very few. And then I remember when I like discovered Dior Homme, and I was like, who would buy a $1,200 hooded sweatshirt where it doesn't say Dior on it anywhere? Like, why would somebody do that? And then I moved to Paris, and I was like, oh, right, okay, like, this makes sense. Like, it's not about bragging about what you're doing. It's about you buy something that you feel that represents you, you put it on your body, and you then can express who you are without words. You don't need a name on your body to like impress people. I don't know, I think that's kind of very disgusting. I mean, unless it's kind of ironic. I mean, just because you bought the J.W. Anderson, you know, blah, 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 or the Miu Miu earring or whatever, like, it doesn't mean that you're better than you were before you had that. I think that people get confused. My favorite blogger to shoot, I guess, would be like Pernille Theisbæk, Danish girl, but I think she's just closed her blog. I mean, I guess if you want to consider Yvonne to be a blogger, like, I don't know if that's the right thing to call him, but I mean, his is one of the few websites that, he doesn't really update it anymore, which is sad, but his travel website, his personal, like, YvonneRadek.com was one of my favorite things to look at, for sure. For men's, probably Raf Simons. I never used to get Raf Simons. Like, back in like the mid 2000s, I never really understood it. In the mid 2000s, I was really into like Dior Homme, like Hedi Slimane. For women, it's a lot. I think, I mean, Phoebe Philo, Celine. I like J.W. Anderson as well. I don't think I would wear J.W. Anderson if I was a woman, but I like it. I mean, I guess Demna, like Balenciaga looks so sick. There's a lot. There's so many different like styles as well, like so many different ways that you can go with it. So I don't know, but I guess yeah, Raf Simons overall would be probably my favorite. My favorite book is either 1984 or Breakfast of Champions. 1984 because it's such like a premonition of the future, and I feel like we're kind of living in that time now. And Breakfast of Champions, Kurt Vonnegut, it's amazing. I don't really know how to describe it. But it's an incredible book. Everyone should read it. My favorite movie is The Life Aquatic. I've probably seen it 200 times, maybe more. The first time I saw it, I thought it was terrible. It's just has the best humor, the best visuals. It's the best Wes Anderson film ever made. And I think maybe one of the best films ever made, in my opinion. Probably Mick Jagger. Santal from Le Labo. I used to work with this guy when I worked in hotels. He wore it every day, and I wanted it so badly, but I wasn't going to buy it. We worked together all the time, and I wasn't going to buy the same perfume as him. The day he quit, I went on my lunch break and I bought it, and I wear it every day because yeah, it's amazing. It smells so good. Cycling, like Tour de France, like road cycling. It's really boring for most people, but for me it's like such an incredible thing to watch. I don't know, I love it. Georgian food or like any kind of like Middle Eastern food, like food in Israel was amazing. I also really like Korean food a lot, but I think Georgian food, it's not healthy, but it's so good. Like I've been to Georgia 4 times now. I'm going back again in a couple of weeks. Like I go, it's an amazing place, but the food, it's unreal. It's so good. You gain like 5 kilos every time you go. Yeah, it's crazy.